Join me today in the garden as we do a few projects around to get ready for winter. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Horticulture Geek Gardens. I'm Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today here on the channel. So today I'm going to be working on a few projects around the garden to get myself ready for winter. I've got some planting to do, some winter annuals to go into some of my containers around. I've got some fall cleanup to do. And we're going to discuss fall cleanup in a little bit as well. I've already been working. I've got the pool covered. I've got a few things already done. So we just have some odd jobs around to do, and I thought I'd pick up the camera and bring you guys with me today. So first things first, like I said, I've got some pansies, some winter annuals that we're going to get into some containers. And I've already started on those containers. So we're going to flip the camera around and we're going to start right back there with that one on the pedestal and get it going. So let me take the camera over there and show you what we're doing. Here we go. Okay, so here we are at this container. It sits on a pedestal here in the garden, and I've already got it cleaned out from the summer. This is the one, if you've watched any of my previous videos, it was a huge mound with a super tunia in it. It had several things in it, but the super tunia just took over and had a beautiful mound here all summer long. So I've already come in, I've already cleaned out this planter, and I've put in fresh soil. I put in some biotone starter fertilizer. And the other day I planted some kale. I planted some kale and other winter veggies the other day, and these were left over from that project. So I went ahead and tucked them into this container. And today I'm just gonna be filling in with some pansies in the rest of the space for this container. Super simple arrangement, just kale and pansies. The kale are gonna grow up and give me some bulk, and then the pansies will fill in and provide the color and interest. So I'm simply just going to plug these into the container and then we'll move on to the next one. Here we go. Here we are at our second container, and again, same thing. I popped in a few kales already, and so now I just need to plant in a few pansies. All right, our third project today is going to be our wheelbarrow planter here. Now, as you can see, this one is not yet cleaned out. The remnants of this coleus that is here that got so big and pretty during the summer, I've still got to clean that out. I've got a begonia that has not yet been affected by the mild frost that we have, and I have two heucheras in here that are semi-evergreen, so they'll stay put. So I need to get in here and clean this up, and I've got a few things to plug in, some pansies and ornamental cabbage, and I've got some fresh soil and biotone starter fertilizer pre-mixed, ready to go. So now I'm just gonna set the camera up and get in here and see what we can do with this. Here we go. So my heuchera had a baby and I just found it. So this is another heuchera plant that I can now pop somewhere else in the garden because of the way it came right up off of the mother plant here. So I'm gonna set that to the side. I'm also in here, if you've noticed, I've been digging around, I've been pulling these out. These are my caladium bulbs. So the first light frosts that we have gotten have killed the tops of the caladiums, and so now it is time to dig out the bulbs, and I will store these away for the winter, and then I can bring them back out in the spring and replant them. But if I leave them here over the winter, once I get a deep, hard frost or freeze, a full freeze, it will kill these tubers. So for the caladiums here, I'm gonna dig these out, store them, and bring them back. So that's what I'm doing right now, is working through this soil to find all these bulbs. And I'm also cleaning up the heucheras as I go. They've been kind of buried underneath the coleus and other things for the summer, so they're tattered and dingy looking. So I'm pulling some of the dead leaves off of those and just cleaning them up so that when we get in here with our fresh stuff, the container will look nice. So I've rooted around in here enough that I think I've dug out all the caladium bulbs that whoop, there's another one as I said that. So I'm just literally rooting around in here to see if I find any caladium bulbs and picking out any trash and debris along the way. So I think I've got that done now. So I'm gonna add in my bucket of fresh dirt with the Biotone starter fertilizer. And then I'm gonna get my ornamental kale and my pansies put in here. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and lose the begonia as well. Or I may try to push it back. It's not gonna last through the entire winter, but it may give me a few more weeks of interest here. So I think I'm just gonna put him and move him back. That way I can get pansy interest to the front where it's gonna be seen all winter long. Here we go. Okay, our next project is this hanging pot right here. And as you can see, I have already cleaned it out. The first light frost that came through took out the plants that were in there for the summer. And I'm just gonna put a few pansies in this. So let me get this going and I'll show you that. Okay, so here we are with this one. Again, as you probably have guessed, I've got a bucket with soil and Biotone starter fertilizer already pre-mixed. So as you probably can tell, the theme of my winter garden this year is simple. You know, sometimes as gardeners, you want to go all out and you buy all these elaborate things and you plan up these beautiful, elaborate, packed out containers for the winter. And sometimes circumstances and situations, you're just like, I just need something simple. So this year, I'm not going big, I'm not going grandiose, I'm just keeping it simple. One of the reasons for that is, again, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that a couple months back in the summer, we were hit by a tornado, and a tree fell out of a neighbor's yard, crushed my fence, crushed my shed, did some damage. Our fence is finally on the docket to get replaced. Our contractor is getting to us the week after Thanksgiving. So that means that my entire fence has got to come down. All the repairs have to be made to the framing, the sections that were completely broken, the framing has to be completely redone, and then all new fence pickets put up all across the back and side of the yard. In addition to that, at some point this winter, I've got to try to rebuild my shed. I've just got so much going on that I don't have time to deal with elaborate containers. I don't have time to deal with keeping a track on watering things in the winter time. Even though I have an irrigation system, if you're familiar with those, you can't run those in the winter here in colder areas. Now, if you're in Texas down or some subtropical area, you can run your irrigation systems year round. Here, it gets too cold for that. I have already got my irrigation system turned off. It's already winterized. So everything in my garden at this point has to be hand watered. And with everything going on, this is the year for me to keep it simple. So that's what I want to tell you gardeners out there as well. And if you're thinking about getting into gardening, don't stress yourself out. You want pretty things in your garden that will hold your interest, look good to you and others, but it doesn't have to be stressful. And if that means you go pick up a cheap flat of pansies like I did, and you just dot a few things around your yard here and there to provide you a little interest and a little color, that's fine. You do not have to go full botanical garden in your yard and flower beds. You just don't have to do it. Keep it simple. It's fine. So now that I've got some fresh soil in here, it's time to pop in some pansies. It won't take very many for this little container. I think we'll probably get 4 in here is what I'm hoping. So let's see if we can get those in here. All right. All right. And like on all containers, you just want to make sure that those root balls are snug. There is good soil all the way around them. Okay, I don't show this close up in a lot of the containers anymore. It's pretty simple, self-explanatory, but since this one is so easy to see, you know, you just want to take a few minutes to make sure that you've got all those root balls nice and snugged in. And yep, that's it. So 4 pansies filled this little hanging container up, and after a good drink of water and a hose down of the pot to get some of this summer debris off of it, this is going to be a beautiful focal point of the winter garden. All right, so when we get an aquapot ready for winter, unfortunately for me in this style of aquapot, that means I have to put it away for the winter. Aquapots, by their very nature, hold water. As you know, well, if you've watched my channel, I've talked about these pots before. I love them. So this container has a platform about midway through that separates a water pocket level from the soil level. And there is a water
spout that comes up through the soil to allow me to keep the water reservoir in this container full during the growing season. What that does is, this is a pot that, since they sit in the middle of my patio, it's not really feasible for me to run a drip irrigation line to them. So they have to be hand watered. And so that allows me to fill a water reservoir in the container that the plants can grow their roots down into and access it as the growing season goes on. And so in the heat of summer, a container like this would probably have to be watered twice a day. You know, when we're reaching 100+ degrees, these containers have to be watered twice a day if there was no water reservoir there. And when I have this water reservoir here, as long as I top it off, I usually only have to fill it up every 2 to 3 days during the heat of the summer. On a nice mild stretch of summer, these water containers will go a whole week at a time during top-ups. So I have this water reservoir in this container, is what I'm trying to say. And if you know anything about freezing weather, if this water reservoir has water in it and it freezes, it's going to expand as ice does, and it's going to shatter this container. So aquapots you do not leave outside during the winter. So I have got to completely empty this container out, which is normally a very standard process. But I have a foxtail fern in here that you see is beautiful. These are a pretty hardy annual in my area, temperamental perennial you could say. But I'm gonna go ahead and dig that out and just throw it in a pot, and then I can replant this in the spring somewhere, and I can just hold it over for the winter in a nice sheltered, protected spot. The rest of this is all headed for the compost pile, and then the container has to be washed out and put away for the winter. So here we go.
Foxtail ferns have a very aggressive root system, and as you can tell, it made full advantage of that water reservoir. It absolutely sent its roots all the way down into that pocket of water. So the rest of the soil in here, I'm just going to pour off into the compost pile, and I'll move on to the next container. All right, guys, that is gonna wrap it up today here in the Horticulture Geek Gardens. I wanna thank you so much for watching me today. Hopefully it has inspired you to get out and tackle some of those projects in your garden to get yourself ready for winter and maybe get some beautiful things in your space to carry you through until spring. Remember, it doesn't have to be elaborate or huge. Just do some simple steps out there in your landscape. A little pop of color or interest here or there goes a long way. And then don't forget, if you have those containers in your yard that are not going to be frost and freeze hardy, are going to hold water and potentially crack, get those in, get them cleaned up, get them put away. That's all I have today. So like I said, I hope it has inspired you to get out and do something in your garden. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those down below. If you've enjoyed this video, give me that thumbs up. And as always, guys, from my garden to yours, I wish you all the best and happy gardening.